The units raised to a power. When we convert quantities that are squared or cubed, we also have to square or cube the numbers associated with that conversion factor. So if we look at cubic centimeters to cubic inches, we learned that 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch. If I'm going to cube the unit, I have to cube the whole thing. So I'm going to cube both sides of that equality. And I'm going to end up with 2.54 cubed centimeters cubed is equal to 1 cubed cubic inches. And when you do the math there, 2.54 cubed, you get 16.387064 cubic centimeters is equal to 1 cubic inch. See, if you forget to cube the 1, it doesn't matter because 1 cubed is the same as 1. If you forget to cube this side, it's going to make a big difference. So let me show you why that's necessary. Well, I'm going to do a slightly different example than I did for the earlier class. So let's say you have a square garden. And this is 1 yard, and 1 yard is a small garden. What's the area of your garden? 1 yard squared, right? So the area is the length times the width. So it's 1 yard times 1 yard, which equals 1 yard squared. Units are like variables in algebra. X times x is x squared. Yard times yard is yard squared. Well, what if I measured that in feet instead of yards? How many feet in a yard? 3. It's okay. So 3 feet on this side, and instead of using yards, I use 3 feet. What's the area in feet squared? 9, right? The area is still the length times the width. So 3 feet times 3 feet is 9 feet squared. 9 square feet, not 3. Because the numbers get multiplied as well. Okay? So when you use cubed or squared units, you have to cube or square the numbers as well. Okay? Let's do an example. An automobile engine has a displacement of 289.7 cubic inches. What is its displacement in cubic centimeters? Well, following dimensional analysis, we're going to write down the number 289.7 with its unit. And then that's the only number in there. And then we look for the question. The question word is what? What is its displacement in cubic centimeters? So we are asked to find cubic centimeters. We are here, we want to get there. Most tables of conversions do not list cubic inches to cubic centimeters. Could you find one? Sure. But we can make one for ourselves because we know the relationship between inches and centimeters. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do 289.7 cubic inches. We have 1 arrow, we have 1 fraction. Cubic inches to cubic centimeters. So here's cubic centimeters, and I'm going to put cubic inches on the bottom because I want those units to cancel out. The relationship between centimeters and inches is given over here. 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch, but this is centimeters cubed. So I need to cube the numbers as well. Okay? Everybody with me on that one? So I'm going to have 289.7. My calculator went to sleep. 289.7 times 2.54 raised to the third power. And my calculator is going to show me 47.33241. Not sure why I like that number, but I do. Cubic centimeters. How many significant figures should that have? When we look at what we're doing here, this one has 4. This one's exact. Now, will you fail the class if you forget that and you round this to 3 significant figures? No. Just let's try to get it right. So this is exact. So we don't even need to think about it. Whatever you started with is what we end up with. So 4 sig figs, so that's going to be right here. So 4747 cubic centimeters. Any questions? Let's do another one. How many cubic inches are there in 3.25 cubic yards? I've got one number, 3.25. The unit is yards cubed. Does this cube mean I have to cube the 3.25? No. I'm only going to do that to the conversion factor. Okay? This, however they measured this volume and figured it out, this is the volume, 3.25 cubic yards. So I want to get to cubic inches. There's more than one way to get there. The fastest would be if I knew how many inches were in a yard. Anybody? 1 yard is how many inches? 36. If you didn't remember that, hopefully you'd know that there's 3 feet in a yard and 12 inches in a foot, and you could do 2 steps. So because I know a relationship between yards and inches without the cube, I can do this in 1 step. 3.25 cubic yards, and I've got 1 fraction. So cubic yards to cubic inches, put cubic inches over here, and cubic yards in the bottom, so that those cancel. 36 inches is 1 yard, but these are cubic inches and cubic yards, so I have to cube the numbers. Okay? 3.25 times 36 raised to the third power. If you don't want to do that, you can just multiply by 36 3 times, 36 times 36 times 36. And my calculator, 151,632 cubic inches. What about sig figs? This is exact. There's 36 inches in a yard. So this one has 3. This should have 3. Should it be 152? It's 151,632. That's not anywhere close to 152. You got the 152 right, but we have to do something with those blanks in between. So we're keeping 3 significant figures. So if I'm going to round this, I round the 1 up to a 2. If I'm not going to use scientific notation, I need to put some placeholding zeros in there to maintain the magnitude of the number. I'm rounding to the nearest 1,000. 151,632. Round to the nearest 1,000. You learned that back in elementary school. I completely understand you may have forgotten that. But let's rewind and revisit. We can't round 151,000 to 152, right? It's very, very different. So you can put placeholding zeros in there, or the best thing is to do scientific notation. When should you do scientific notation? Look at the place that you're rounding. If you're rounding in the ones place, you're going to be fine. If you're rounding over here to the right of the decimal point, you're going to be fine. It just happens if you're in the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, 10,000s. If you're over there, then you sometimes end up changing the number without meaning to. So if I'm going to do this in scientific notation, I'm going to go 1.5. The decimal point always goes after the first non-zero digit. And I'm going to keep the 1 and the 5, and I'm going to keep this place, but I have to consider rounding up or down. So this is going to round up, so 1.52. There's my 3 sig figs. I don't need to write down anything else. Times 10, and I'm going to look. The decimal point would have been over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the exponent's 5. It's a big number. Mrs. K has positive feelings about big paychecks. So it's 1.52 times 10 to the 5th cubic inches. Yeah?
So when the yards canceled out, so did the cube for 3.25 yards, and then for the fraction? Because it depends on yards, the cube. That's why
The yard cubed canceled yard cubed.
Okay.
Yeah. We treat those as one unit.
Okay.
Any other questions?